My fiancé betrayed me with my cousin while I was in England. Now he's begging for my forgiveness with $0 in his account. But I make $120K a year and have an architect boyfriend they never saw coming. I'm 28 years old. I work in financial consulting. And 2 years ago, something happened to me that basically destroyed me completely, but also, in a twisted way, ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me. I know it sounds weird, but when you finish reading this, you're going to understand why I say that sometimes karma is real and that things have a way of working themselves out. Even though in the moment you feel like your world is falling apart, I guess I should start at the beginning, when I still lived in the United States and thought I had my life completely figured out. I had been dating Marcus, my fiancé, for 4 years, and honestly I thought he was the love of my life. You know, that person you imagine growing old with and all that. We had met in college. He studied literature and I studied finance, and even though we were pretty different, we always had that connection. We got engaged after 4 years together, and I remember when he gave me the ring, I was completely sure we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. How naive I was. Seriously. My family was always pretty close. Or at least, that's what I thought. My parents, Karen and Thomas, are good people, very hardworking, and they always supported me in everything. My dad especially is one of those who would do anything for his family, like very protective and generous. I have an aunt, Diane, who is my dad's younger sister, and she has a daughter named Chloe, my cousin, who is like 4 years younger than me. Diane was always kind of weird with me. Like condescending, you know? Always with passive-aggressive comments about my clothes, my job, my decisions. But I thought that's just how she was. I never imagined it was something deeper. My paternal grandparents, George and Dorothy, lived in a big house where occasionally Diane and Chloe would stay when they had money problems, which happened often because Diane could never hold down a stable job. The thing is that everything started going to hell when I got an incredible opportunity for a summer program in Leeds, England. It was a 3-month training in my field, super prestigious, and it meant a huge boost for my career. Marcus completely supported me at first. I mean, he told me he was proud of me and that 3 months would fly by. I was super excited, honestly, because it also meant that when I got back, I'd probably get an important promotion. I had never left the country for that long, so it was also a personal adventure for me. I left in June, and the first few weeks everything was going perfectly. Marcus and I talked every day by video call. He sent me sweet messages, told me he missed me. I told him about Leeds, about the people I was meeting in the program, about how I was doing. But around 3 weeks in, I started to notice something weird was happening. The calls became shorter, more spaced out. And when I asked him what was wrong, he said nothing, that he was just busy with work. I believed him. I mean, I wanted to believe him, because I trusted him completely. But then he started canceling our scheduled video calls, not responding to my messages for hours. And when he finally answered, it was with short responses like, "I'm fine. Talk later." My stomach started doing that knot you get when you know something is wrong but you don't want to admit it. I tried to talk to him about this. I asked him directly if there was a problem, if he was upset with me about something, but he always told me everything was perfect, that I was being paranoid because of the distance. And I felt bad for being suspicious. You know what I mean? Like I thought, oh no, I'm being the insecure and controlling girlfriend. So I tried to give him space, not pressure him so much, but the distance between us kept growing, and I didn't understand why. What I didn't know, what I didn't have the slightest idea about, was that while I was in England working my ass off to build my future, Marcus was back home, sleeping with my cousin Chloe, and my aunt Diane. That manipulative woman was orchestrating everything like she was some kind of twisted matchmaker. But I found this out later, when it was already too late to do anything about it. I was in my 4th week of the program. It was a Tuesday afternoon, I think, when I received a package at my temporary apartment in Leeds. I wasn't expecting anything, so it seemed strange to me. I opened it and inside was a wedding invitation. An elegant, expensive wedding invitation with gold lettering and everything. And when I read the names, I was completely paralyzed. Marcus and Chloe. My fiancé and my cousin. They were getting married in 2 weeks. I couldn't breathe. I literally felt like the floor was moving under my feet. I read the invitation like 5 times, trying to process what I was seeing. Marcus? My Marcus? Chloe? My 4-year-old cousin Chloe? It didn't make sense. It had to be a mistake, a bad joke, something. I immediately called my mom, Karen, and as soon as she could answer, I was already crying hysterically. I asked her what the hell was going on, if she knew anything about this, and by her silence on the other end of the line, I knew it was real. Everything was real. My mom told me everything through tears. Apparently, Marcus and Chloe had started seeing each other shortly after I left. My Aunt Diane basically brought them together, invited Marcus to several family dinners, where coincidentally Chloe was all dressed up and available. Marcus, the idiot, fell for it completely. My aunt filled his head with ideas that I was too ambitious, too focused on my career, that Chloe was more traditional, more homely, a better partner for him. And he, instead of talking to me about any doubts he had about our relationship, decided that the best option was to sleep with my cousin behind my back while I was thousands of miles away. The part that hurt me the most, the part that still hurts when I think about it, was that nobody told me anything. Marcus didn't have the guts to break up with me like a decent person. He just stopped answering me, started disappearing, and planned his wedding with someone else while we were technically still engaged. My aunt had the nerve to send the invitation to Leeds, as if it were some kind of triumphant announcement. Like saying, "Look what we got while you weren't here." My cousin, who I grew up with, who I shared birthdays and Christmases with, had no problem betraying me in the cruelest way possible. And the worst part is that my family found out like a week before I did, and nobody knew how to tell me. So they waited for the damn invitation to arrive, so I would find out on my own. I didn't go back for the wedding, obviously. I couldn't. Physically and emotionally, I couldn't get on a plane and watch the man I loved marry my cousin. My parents didn't go either. They flatly refused, and that at least gave me some comfort knowing they were on my side. But the wedding happened, they got married, and I stayed in Leeds trying to finish my program while feeling like I was falling apart inside. The weeks that followed were the worst of my life. I'm not going to lie. I cried every day. I couldn't concentrate on work. My colleagues in the program noticed something was wrong, but I didn't want to talk about it with strangers, so I just said I had family problems. At night, I stayed awake thinking about everything, analyzing every moment of my relationship with Marcus, wondering what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough, what Chloe had that I didn't have. My self-esteem was rock bottom. I felt humiliated, betrayed, like everyone in my family had made me look like an idiot. You know what it feels like to have your cousin take your fiancé and your aunt help make it happen? It's like a double, triple betrayal. I didn't just lose my partner. I lost part of my family too. But something happened after like a month of being depressed. I was walking through Leeds one afternoon. It was raining like it always rains there. And suddenly I thought, you know what? Screw them all. Was I really going to let this destroy me? Was I going to go back home with my head down as if I was the one who did something wrong? No, no way. I decided in that moment that I wasn't going back, that I was going to stay in Leeds, that I was going to build a new life, far from all that toxicity. My program was ending in 2 weeks, so I started looking for jobs in England like crazy. I sent like 50 applications in 1 week. I got lucky. Or maybe the universe finally decided to give me something good after so much shit. I got an incredible offer at a consulting firm in Leeds. Better salary than what I had in the United States, better benefits, everything. I accepted immediately. I called my parents and told them I was staying in England. My mom cried, but understood. My dad said he completely supported me in whatever decision I made. I did all the visa paperwork, found a small but nice apartment in the center of Leeds, and basically started my life from scratch. And the first few months were difficult. I'm not going to lie. Being alone in a new country, without friends, without family nearby, still processing all the betrayal. But little by little, things got better. I started making friends at work, getting to know the city, enjoying my independence, and best of all, I started to forget about Marcus. It stopped hurting to think about him. I started going out with friends, having casual dates, rediscovering who I was without him. Meanwhile, in the United States, things for Marcus and Chloe weren't going as well as they expected. My family kept me updated on everything, and let me tell you that karma exists and it's beautiful. Turns out that about 3 months after they got married, my family discovered that Marcus had quit his job. Yes, he quit. Because apparently he always wanted to be a writer, And now that he had a supportive wife, Chloe, he decided it was the perfect time to pursue his dreams. The problem is that writer isn't exactly a career that gives you stable income immediately. You know what I mean? Especially when you don't have a single published book or anything. So Marcus was at home all day, writing his novel, while Chloe worked part-time at a clothing store earning practically nothing. But here comes the good part. When Marcus and I got engaged, we opened a joint investment fund. It was money we had been saving for the wedding, for our honeymoon, for our future, like $45,000 in total. After he married Chloe, I checked the terms of the fund, and it turns out that technically I could liquidate it because it was also in my name, and we had never made legal changes after the engagement. So, you know what I did? I liquidated everything. I transferred every cent to my new account in England, and I didn't feel even a little bit bad about doing it. Marcus obviously found out like 2 months later, when he probably tried to access the money and saw there was nothing. And that's when the show started. He sent me like 30 furious emails, telling me that money belonged to both of us. How dare I? That I was leaving him on the street. I only responded to one, very short and direct. That money was for my wedding, for my future with my fiancé. Since you decided I wasn't part of that future, the money stayed with me. Regards. And I blocked him from all my social media, from my email, from my phone. Done. But Marcus didn't give up that easily. Since he couldn't contact me, he showed up at my parents' house. My mom told me he arrived super upset, demanding to talk to her about the fund money. He told her it was unfair, that he and Chloe were going through financial difficulties, that they needed that money. And my mom, God bless her, closed the door in his face and told him to never show up at her house again. My dad even threatened to call the police if he came back. So Marcus, in his desperation, sent my Aunt Diane and Chloe to talk to my family. Imagine the nerve. These two showed up at my parents' house, basically demanding that I return the money. My aunt, with her condescending attitude as always, saying that I was being vengeful and selfish, that Chloe and Marcus needed that money to start their life together, and my cousin Chloe standing there, with a victim face, as if she was the one who suffered an injustice. My mom told them to leave, that after what they did, they had no right to ask for anything. But they kept insisting, making a dramatic show outside the house. This is where my dad, Thomas, proved to be the hero I always knew he was. Turns out that for years my dad had been helping Diane financially. He paid her rent when she couldn't, gave her money for food, basically supported her and Chloe. And my dad decided that was it. He told them that after what they did to his daughter, he wasn't going to give them another cent. Nothing. Zero. That they should manage on their own. My aunt started screaming that it was unfair. How could he punish her for decisions Marcus made? But my dad was super clear. You manipulated the whole situation. You brought Marcus and Chloe together while my daughter was away. This is your fault as much as theirs. It's over. And he closed the door. But it didn't end there. My grandparents, George and Dorothy, also found out about everything that happened and how Diane acted, and they were furious, like I had never seen them so angry. Diane and Chloe were living at their house at that time because they couldn't pay rent anywhere, and my grandparents literally kicked them out. They told them they had 2 weeks to find another place. My grandmother Dorothy told Diane she was ashamed of her as a mother, that raising a daughter who does that kind of thing spoke very poorly of her values. It was brutal, but honestly deserved. So the whole situation became a complete disaster for them. Marcus had no job. Chloe earned almost nothing. My aunt had no money either, and now they were without my dad's support and without a house because my grandparents kicked them out. They had to move to a horrible apartment in a dangerous area, the only place they could afford. And I found out about all this from my mom, who called me every week with updates. I'm not going to lie. Every time I heard that things were getting worse for them, I felt enormous satisfaction. I know it sounds cruel, but after what they did to me, seeing them suffer gave me a sense of justice. About 6 months into all this, Marcus faced eviction. They couldn't pay the rent even for that horrible apartment. Chloe had to get a second job at a fast food restaurant. My Aunt Diane was living with them at that point, sleeping on the couch, and basically everyone surviving on the minimum. The novel Marcus was writing never materialized into anything, by the way. Turns out it's not so easy to be a writer when you have zero discipline and zero real talent. Who would? To have imagined. Then Marcus did something that still surprises me by how pathetic it was. He sent me an email from a new account, that I didn't have blocked, like a long, super dramatic email where he apologized for everything. He said he realized he made the worst mistake of his life, that he should never have left me, that Chloe wasn't what he thought, that my aunt manipulated him, basically trying to blame everyone but himself. And then, at the end of the email, he had the nerve to tell me he wanted to reconnect with me, that maybe we could talk about what happened and see if there's a possibility of fixing things. I read it 3 times to make sure I was reading it right. This man, who betrayed me in the worst possible way, who married my cousin, who destroyed me emotionally, thought I was going to consider taking him back? The level of delusion is impressive. I responded to him, but not what he expected. I told him, Marcus, there is absolutely nothing to fix between us. You made your decisions, now live with the consequences. I'm happy in my new life, with people who really value me. Don't ever contact me again. And I blocked him again. My mom told me later that when Chloe found out about that email, there was a huge fight between them. Apparently, Chloe confronted him, screaming that if he was so regretful, why did he marry her? And Marcus told her horrible things about how she was never his first choice. Instant karma for both of them. While all this drama was happening there, my life in Leeds kept getting better every day. I got a promotion at work after a year, started earning even more money. I moved to a bigger apartment with a view of the river. I made incredible friends, people who truly support me. And like 8 months ago, I met someone. His name is Oliver, he's from Leeds, he works in architecture, and he's basically everything Marcus never was. Honest, loyal, mature, with his life figured out. We've been officially dating for 6 months and things are going really well. I don't know if he's the one yet, but what I do know is that he treats me with respect and never makes me feel like I have to compete for his attention or affection. The last time I talked to my mom, like 2 weeks ago, she told me that Marcus and Chloe are still together, but basically they're miserable. They fight all the time. They have huge debts. Marcus had to get a job at a call center because his writer dream obviously didn't work out. Chloe is bitter because she realized that married life isn't what she imagined. My Aunt Diane is living off the charity of other people, jumping from house to house of friends who give her temporary shelter. And my grandparents made it very clear to them that they're not welcome in their house ever again. As for me, I'm here, in my apartment in Leeds, with a job I love, a boyfriend who treats me well, loyal friends, and a life I built completely on my own after everything fell apart. Sometimes I think about what my life would have been like if Marcus hadn't betrayed me, if I had married him, if I had stayed in the United States. And honestly, I think he saved me from a mediocre life with a man who clearly didn't value me. Yes, the process of getting here was horrible, painful, and there were moments when I thought I would never get over it. But I did, and now I'm better than ever. Last week, Oliver asked me if I would ever consider moving back to the United States. I told him no, that Leeds is my home now, that this is where I belong. And it's true. This city gave me a second chance when I needed it most. It gave me space to heal, to grow, to become a stronger version of myself. The United States has too many painful memories, too many toxic people I prefer to stay away from. Do I miss my family? Of course. I miss my parents, my grandparents. I even miss some things about my old life. But I don't miss the drama. I don't miss having to see my aunt and my cousin at family gatherings. I don't miss living in the same city where everyone knows my story and looks at me with pity. Here, nobody knows anything about that. Here, I'm just Isabella, the financial consultant who lives in Leeds and has her life together. And I like that. I guess the lesson from all this, if there is one, is that sometimes the worst betrayals end up being the best things that can happen to you. If Marcus hadn't left me in such a cruel way, I never would have had the courage to move to another country alone. I never would have discovered how strong I can be. I never would have met Oliver or the incredible friends I have now. I'd probably be trapped in an unhappy marriage with a man who cheated on me at the first opportunity, living a life that doesn't really make me happy. I'm not saying I forgave him, because I didn't. I probably never will. I didn't forgive Chloe or my Aunt Diane either. What they did was unforgivable. But I did reach a point where I don't care anymore. It doesn't keep me up at night. Anymore. It doesn't hurt to think about it. It's like a closed chapter of my life, something that happened but doesn't define who I am anymore. And that indifference, that power to simply move on without them, I think is the best revenge I could have had. They're still trapped in their misery, paying the consequences of their actions, while I'm here living my best life. Can you ask for anything better than that?